Welcome to the Waiting List podcast. Tell us the story.
It's like many things you start building from scratch.
And then I'm like, wait, I really do like watches because
You've seen so many watches that makes you excited.
I think I really do like watches.
Yeah. I think it's a great way to see if you are a watch enthusiast.
Okay, hi guys. Welcome back to another episode. Today, we are welcoming back Thomas Perazzi, who we've interviewed a couple of weeks ago. And as usual, I am joined by my two co-hosts, Long and Daniel. So Thomas, welcome back.
Thank you. Thank you all. Nice to see you again. Thanks for having me this time as well.
Yeah. So when we left our last interview and we're looking for a date for the second one, you suggested that, maybe we should do it after the Hong Kong Intersect auction has ended. So it'd be a good, opportunity to discuss the results. And I'm sure some of you who are listening right now are aware that it was a 100% white glove sale. It was very successful. Thomas, what did you think of the entire auction?
Well, first of all, yes, it was amazing that we achieved another white glove sale. So we sold everything. It is the fourth in a row for Philips watches in 2021. So we hope to continue like that in the fall. We offered 45 lots. The total low estimate was above 4 million Hong Kong. The total result, including premium, exceeded 11 million Hong Kong dollars. So it means that we have like more than double the low estimate. Also, those are important figures when you analyze auction results. Mm-hmm. It was a very, very active sale. We received many bids from, I would say, worldwide. I mean, all the big continents were at the same time extremely active. Also, we are proud to have achieved a new world record for a François Peugeot Vagabondage. Mm-hmm. That was sold for slightly over 3 million Hong Kong dollars. This mm-hmm. set a new world record for François Peugeot. And again, it shows how independent wristwatches, especially made by Journe, are extremely in demand, the results are still extremely important, and mm-hmm. The prices are looking up that they are going still up. So that is absolutely, positive for the market and for the, I would say, also the Jour connectors. Another mm-hmm. result that really also is quite important to analyze is the 5711, because we ended the spring season with important results on 5711. This one was one of the first to be offered international in the second part of the year, and again, 5711 are also in extremely high demand. With I think we have achieved another strong result with mm-hmm. 945,000 Hong Kong dollars. So we are like 110, around 10,000 US dollars. So again, strong result for this iconic model. Also, Audemars Piguet, we had a couple of Royal Oaks, especially the one in titanium and platinum mm-hmm. that was made to celebrate the 20th anniversary of the launch of the Royal Oak chronograph that went above 800,000 Hong Kong dollars. That also is still above of the latest market prices. So another good results. Also was quite, again, impressed by the sport Rolexes in stainless steel. The ceramic Daytona performed extremely well. The Batman, we had a Kermit, we had the so-called Starbucks, we had a Sky Dweller in steel and with blue dial that performed very well. Going to like more accessible prices, I'm also quite pleased about the results that we obtained for a very nice watch. That was the Daniel Roth chronograph in stainless steel. We didn't have the accessories, but the watch was in excellent condition, really attractive with this two-tone guilloche dial, and it went for over 110,000 Hong Kong dollars. That is, compared to a couple of years ago results, is a very good one. Mm-hmm. And again, another trend that exploded recently, the Gerald Gentas with Disney characters. Mm-hmm. And we had, it was Mickey Mouse playing golf. And again, it went for 150,000 Hong Kong dollars, so over 20,000 US dollars for a watch only. That also years ago was a watch that the bidding level was much lower.
Yeah.
It was quite interesting because a couple of weeks ago during the Geneva Watch Days, Bulgar released a new edition of Magenta Disney wristwatches. And we internally believe that they have been inspired by the first strong result that Magenta Disney achieved at auction that we sold in Hong Kong earlier this year, that went for 120,000 Hong Kong dollars circa. And also the retail price, they placed basically the retail very close to that auction result. So who knows if Mr. Babin has been inspired by that result.
Yeah.
So overall, yes, the market it seems very strong. We had, as I said previously, strong participation from all over the world. So it's looking good, for the auction fall seasons, but also for the watch community in general.
That's great. You raised a lot of good points, and I have a lot of follow-up questions. First of all, I just wanted to point out, on our show, one of our most frequent asked questions to, especially when seasoned collectors or industry professional like yourself come up, is, what do you think are some of the most underrated pieces still in the current industry, which are few and far between. And then the Gerald Genta original line, like the Mickey Mouse and the Disney, and also a lot of their perpetual calendars from the Gerald Genta line are, in my opinion, still very much undervalued. So it's really nice to see Bulgari team going back into their roots, and then because Gerald Genta was they acquired their brand, and then reviving these kind of models. But Tom, I really want to go back to the very beginning, talk about the entire Intersect auction. Again, congratulations on the successful auction results. But I remember last time when you came on, you said that when Philips started the Intersect auction, it was kind of like Philips' way to tap into the younger demographic of buyers, be it for art or accessories or watches. Was that something that also is what happened this time? When you look into the bidders' demographic and age, what average age were the bidders for this particular auction?
No, absolutely. Very good point. Thank you, Jacqueline. Also, this time in this Intersect sale, what I shared with you previously has been confirmed. So we had, as I said, worldwide participation, but also we have noticed that underbidders, if not buyers, even on the high end, they were really young, passionate, that they are, the youngest are in the mid-20s. So the majority, basically, according to a first stat that we have about Intersect, almost 60% of the wholesale, so including art and jewelry, was bought by clients that are under 40. So we clearly see this trend that the new generation are more and more interested in collecting art, jewelry, and watches. So definitely we are going in that direction. Yeah.
I've got a question. I've got two questions. You mentioned two brands earlier, Daniel Roth. Actually, you didn't mention Daniel Roth. You didn't mention the second brand, which the second brand is Grand Seiko that you also had. These two brands, they've been very much underappreciated for a long time by the collector community. And you are seeing more Grand Seiko and more Daniel Roth appearing. Do you think that finally the collective community is embracing these two brands and that they have the potential to even perhaps shoot beyond accessibility for the common folk by going really, really high, especially like Daniel Roth?
Yes, because if you read the story of Daniel Roth, it's really fascinating, and especially collecting the early examples are absolutely, to me, highly collectible items. So finally, again, as we discussed previously, I think during these dramatic years of pandemic, one of the few positive aspects that impacted the communities that collectors had more time to deep dive into their passion and study more, learn more, because of course, as you know, it takes time, and they have expanded their collecting horizons, and now including brands that before were not considered at all. And brand Seiko for me is like one of the finest watch brands made outside of Switzerland. So definitely.
Yeah, Lala.
I have a question. There's a thing called a Big Mac index, which is like the McDonald's Big Mac, and then they compare the prices around the world. And so they use this to maybe measure inflation, to measure spending power, and so on. So with every auction now, we always see maybe one Nautilus, one Jumbo, right? Is there like the equivalent of a Big Mac in the watch world where you guys can kind of monitor everyone's spending power in a certain period?
Very good point. Yeah, the answer is yes. I have to say that for decades, the barometer was the Daytonian steel. And now I think that has been dethroned by, I would say, more than 5711 than the Audemars Piguet Royal Oak. So definitely is a test, a thermometer, a barometer of the market. Yeah, for sure.
I've got another question as well, which is something you mentioned about the Mickey Mouse Geragenta, where you've seen that a brand has perhaps seen that it's performed well in auction and then gone and actually put it back into current production. You know, to me, I think the auction house is a very good testing ground because they can really monitor, one, the collectors, the real serious collectors, or the ones that are further along the journey. What are they collecting? And therefore, where the start of the trend might begin. But have you seen that in other situations? It's other pieces where you've seen it's done well at auction, and then suddenly, you know, maybe a year or two later, you see it rolled out in current production?
Yes, because I noticed that over the years that when, especially vintage watches, were from some models were performing extremely well at auction, then the brands were reissuing limited edition, the heritage, you know, all those lines that now are becoming more and more like common to see. But previously, brands were not absolutely interested to reissue vintage models or, you know, past collections. Now is quite normal to see that. So definitely, I can say that brands are now more and more looking closely at auction results, and then they take, you know, their strategic decision for the future collections. That's for sure.
Yeah,
because
I think
it's not auction houses, are the collectors, is the market.
Yeah,
because we cannot control, you know, our collectors. We just can advise them, suggest them that this is a nice and rare piece, but then it's up to them to decide which kind of price level they want to go for.
Yeah.
So yeah, definitely brands now are looking more and more into what is going on in the auction market.
Yeah.
And especially now where I would say there's more of a trend to smaller size cases, right? That would fit in very nicely with vintage, like homages, reissues, limited editions, because the market is showing that there is a preference to smaller size cases.
Yeah. But also like with the recent reedition of the Corey Richards Vacheron, right? Like I don't think that was, you know, reissued because of the auction result, because that was like a piece unique. But then I think it was definitely because it was auctioned and then the public reacted so strongly about it. Did Vacheron maybe consider, oh yeah, maybe it's a good time to release a limited edition of the same watch, but, you know, in different materials. So yeah, it'll be interesting to see in the future, like how auction houses and the brands have this kind of not collaboration, but mutual benefit relationship. But I want to ask one more question regarding the intersect before we move on, which is the Vagabondage 3 that you mentioned, which again like broke a world record. So my first question is like, when the auction results kicked in, right, and then everyone started posting on their stories, and I saw a lot of people saying, "Oh, wow, it achieved such a result. How come the estimates were so low?" And then there were people discussing, but well, auction houses sometimes put the estimates a little bit lower to encourage bidding. What would you say in terms of that? Because I did hear a lot of people kind of like shocked. We know how hot Jordan is. Maybe the auction houses should put a more quote unquote realistic estimate next time.
Good point. That is the main difference between Philips watches and the other major auction houses. First of all, something that I would like to absolutely remind is that both the 5711 and the Vagabondage were offered by the original owner. So they paid back then official retail prices. So the estimate that we placed, they were absolutely close to basically the back then retail price. And then we let the market decide. But also is our strategy to place so-called attractive estimates in order to engage with with more and more collectors, and then hopefully, to achieve higher results. Yeah, because of course that's our strategy is we can clearly see other auction houses that are placing much higher estimates, and then the results are lower with less bidding.
Yeah, for sure.
But also because we have the luck to work with mainly private collectors, or mainly the watches that we are offering are from the original owner, so we are able to offer watches with with attractive estimates.
Yeah.
Is it in the interest of the auction house though to sometimes have a huge disparity between like the end result and the estimate, because people talk about it, we're talking about it now, right? It's kind of like a marketing thing, and with a watch like the Vagabondage 3 by F.P. Jean, right, it's a beautiful piece. For it to happen on that piece and an F.P. Jean right now, which is super hot, it's going to bring a lot of attention. Or is it in the interest of an auction house to be as close to the estimate as possible to show that you're really, really accurate?
I think the estimates are absolutely important, but then what really matters is the final results that really indicates where the market is going. So for us, as I said, we always try to find a balance to please the sellers, and of course to let all the collectors place bids into the auction and be part of it, and then give them a chance, to acquire nice pieces with potentially good prices.
Yeah. Okay. I want to move on to my next question, which, is relevant to what we've been talking about so far. And that is, in your opinion, Tama, what do you think collectors are looking for these days? We're not talking about the stereotypical 5711 or the Rolex Jumbos. We mentioned it briefly with the Daniel Roths making a comeback. What other pieces do you think, I guess, like serious collectors are looking, serious enthusiasts are looking for these days?
I don't say that we can definitely identify brands. What I can say is that definitely wise collectors are looking for, again, rarity and quality. I mean, those are the two key things that really distinguish the watch market, and that those two aspects can be applied for vintage watches and modern watches. So of course, when you, like, for example, another brand that is rising up again, and I'm very pleased to say that, is a Lang & Söhne. Lang & Söhne has one, as we know, one of the best finishing, is releasing extremely highly complicated movements, and the production is low. So that I think is the direction where the collectors are going. So also 5711, yes, of course, is a still sport watch, but still also the quantity produced compared to Rolex is still lower. So again, we have a rarity aspect that comes up. So I think I can see, or I can at least say my clients are looking for that. They don't say, oh, I'm looking for that specific model. When we release the catalogs, they always, interested. And I saw many times that like also collectors also based here in Asia that previously were collecting vintage Rolexes, now they are into independence, and vice versa. We are like collectors that they started their journey with collecting modern pieces, and now they are absolutely into vintage. So again, but the key aspects are always that quality and rarity.
I want to just take that back with the Lang & Söhne, because Lang & Söhne is a brand that I think all of us here appreciate immensely. And it's not so much of a question, but it reminds me so much of a dinner I shared with you, Thomas, when I was in Hong Kong, where you said what Lang & Söhne are doing is actually what Patek were doing many years ago, with that low production, high quality movements. And so you almost expect them inevitably to go on to further success, especially like maybe in the auction arena, or certainly with the collectors. And I'd never thought about it that way, that despite me reading about Patek all the time, that actually we have a kind of like, I don't want to say a modern Patek, but a brand that is emulating the strategies that were done many years ago and have served Patek so well in times gone by, right?
Sure.
Yeah, for sure. And then just following up on that, I know Philips is offering some really cool Lang & Söhnes coming up. Actually, I've seen one, but I'm sure there are more, like the 1815 tourbillon. It's like a dream. That's like a dream watch. I think I saw that like 2 years ago, or when it first got released, without knowing anything about watches, and I was just staring at the dial, like the hand frosted dial. It's beautiful. So I mean, I'll be looking to see how that performs. I'm sure other people will do the same. Okay, so my next question is, Thomas, and again, we kind of discussed this earlier. You obviously being the head of watches in Asia, what do you think? How do you think the market differs right now in terms of the Asias or the Americas and Europe? Because we've seen obviously an uprise in the collecting kind of community in Asia. So first question, what do you think differs these three kind of markets? And then where do you think the market is going to be going towards for Asia?
I would say that now, thanks to technology, thanks to Instagram, thanks to WhatsApp groups. I mean, collectors are really now exchanging information worldwide. So I would say that in the last 5-10 years, the taste and the demand for fine collectors is the same worldwide. There are not big differences. The main differences is that the Asian market is growing faster. We have new collectors joining the community faster than other countries. And as I said before, the average age of collectors is going down. Usually in Europe and America, big collectors are from like in the 40s, 50s, even 60s. Now we can see that in Asia, we have collectors that they start their journey, even as I said, in the mid-20s. So that's the main difference. And I think that in the future, Asia will again be the biggest market for watches, whatever it could be retail, secondhand, or like fine vintage timepieces. I think the market will grow again and will be again the biggest one.
I've got a question on that. Since you can see a good future for the Chinese market, or the Asian market, but let's talk about China specifically. How hard has it been to develop a team that is young and dynamic, understands China, but then understands that the age is getting younger, and to find the right people to develop in China the business of Philips?
That is what is extremely hard for us, to find the right people, to join the company that embraces the philosophy of the company, that embraces and knows the culture of our clients, what our clients are looking for, and to provide the best services. So is absolutely, because sometimes we are associated to retail, with the retail market. So we are associated as salespersons. Is totally false. Is not inaccurate. We are first specialists. We know what we are selling. Secondly, we are also advisors, because we taking huge responsibility to advise collectors to buy maybe some pieces that were not really in the collector's radar, or we advise them to maybe sell some pieces because the market is extremely in demand. So we have huge responsibilities, and we need to always adapt, innovate, and be like a step forward to our client in order to say, well, we are doing that, and have feedback from clients. Oh, that's perfect. It's exactly what I was looking for, instead of waiting for clients saying, oh, I would need this or that from you guys. So no, it's not easy at all.
Yeah. I have a question. Like, obviously we know that there is like a large part of responsibility being a specialist is actually advising clients, right? And one question that I actually brought up with the team here is, when we first saw the upcoming catalogs, I know Philips hasn't really released theirs yet, but from what Antiquorums is offering to Sotheby's to Christie's, and even to like the highlights that Philips has, sneaked into the community, there are a lot of quote unquote like grail pieces coming this season. So like from the #1 FP Journes to that Philips is auctioning, to the Philippe Dufours, and then to, I know Christie's is offering like some really cool vintage Pateks, the 3448 and the 5004 Blue Dial Clapton, to like Sotheby's. And like, why do you I don't know really how to phrase this question, but it's just insane to see so many grail pieces come to the market at once. That makes me think, is this like a sign that a lot of collectors are thinking maybe now is a seller's market versus a buyer's market?
No, I just believe that thanks to, and of course here I can talk about Philips only, thanks to the strong results that we have achieved in the first season of 2021 and in the second half of 2020, collectors are motivated to sell, because they see the increase of prices, the increase of demand. So they see that as an opportunity, and that's why they are willing to separate those timepieces and having them at auction.
Yeah, it's just like such a feast for the eyes, even to see them in the online catalogs. I certainly don't think I've seen so many of these like pieces at once. So I was kind of like taken aback in a good way.
I actually wanted to ask you something, because I came in relatively late into the auction world, so I don't think I'm even close to understanding it in any ways, even from the customer's point of view. But I think you came in when all these, like, I would say, not the main auction, like Intersect and all these online auctions started popping up, and then now you have these perpetual ones, like, okay, you have the perpetual sales, and then you have stuff like Lupus and so on. I wonder whether it's kind of interesting to see how it feels from your point of view, coming in at a time when, instead of waiting for auctions to happen a few times during the year, it's constant, and what that does for you in terms of how patient you are in terms of buying. Because there's more chances for you to keep scrolling and just be like, hey, there's something on again.
Yeah, the exposure, you mean?
Yeah.
Mhm.
is just 24/7, and so you're
Yeah.
getting constantly enticed to consume.
Okay. Yeah.
That's a very good question, Lou. Yeah.
So
I'm curious to hear the feedbacks. The answers.
okay. From my perspective, when I first got into watches, right, it was again like a very random thing. It was from my mom, and then obviously COVID happened, so and then school kicked us out all back to our home, so I had nothing really to do, and then I was just online 24/7 looking for information, right, and back then, like I've never participated in any auction before. It was such a daunting thing to me, like because I'm like personality wise, I don't think I'm that competitive. Like I am competitive, but like competition also scares me. So it's kind of like, you know, a weird dynamic. So for me, I've always just been more comfortable with buying online, even without seeing the pieces. And then obviously, once I got to know all of you guys, and I mean, you guys are, you know, along your client of Phillips, and you guys are in auctions quite often, you know, watching and bidding, whatever. And then I was, oh yeah, okay, maybe it's something that I could tap my feet into and test the waters for a little bit. So last year was my first time participating in an auction and was with Phillips. Summer of 2020. And then that was like my first step. And then I was like, ooh, like I got a taste of it. I got a little bit scared, but then the entire experience was pretty well. But then now it's like I've never ever since I started liking watches and buying watches and whatever, it has always been like a very lonesome journey, right? Like I always had to actively go out and seek out the pieces. I always had to go out and make relationships with the seller, the collector, or the dealer. But then now, all of a sudden, like what we were talking about right now, right? The reason why I was so shook is because all of a sudden, I don't know if this is normal or not. Maybe you guys know more than I do, but all of a sudden, it seems like we're riding a wave that doesn't end, right? Like that just goes up and up and up. First, we started with the kind of demand increase with Cartier, and then all of a sudden with F.P. Journe, and then now like Daniel Roth's, and then all the automatic ultra thin perpetual calendars, and it just goes up and up and up, and then till now it reaches a point where all of a sudden this upcoming auction season, there are so many of these pieces that I've read about coming at once, and then to me it's just like it's not like a patient thing because I can't afford all of them, but it's just for me, it's like, okay, this is a really good opportunity to learn, first of all. And second of all, just it teaches me to calm down a little bit. Because I mean, we were talking about this the other day, talking about Long and Daniel, we were talking about it because for me, when I'm buying watches, like I always, it's not like I'm chasing the next thing, but I'm just so involved and emotionally kind of invested into this hobby that I always want to, it's like a challenge almost, like when you seek out the next piece that you've always been chasing for. But now it's like, okay, I think I've matured a little bit. I've seen actual watches in person, and I know there will be a lot more coming out in the next, you know, years to follow. So why the rush? So I think I've eased up a little bit on myself. Before it was like, okay, how do I make like the perfect watch box for me? Like everything has to have a role. And then but now it's like, just take it easy. Why be so hard on yourself? I don't know if that makes sense. It sounds like I have like ADHD, but it's not that. I swear to God, it's not. It's just I like it so much that every piece kind of feels like this is a weird analogy, but it feels like I'm searching for like my next family member. And then now it's like, just take it easy. Why be so hard on yourself? Just go around and look at the pieces, which is, you know, what I'm excited to do now. So I don't know if that answers your question, Long, but I think to sum it up, it's like, okay, when I started, I just want to see everything. And then I'm so curious, right? And now it's just like, I'm also like that, but I've taken a tone it down a little bit because I know it's not like a hobby that I think will just disappear or I'm going to give up in a few years' time. I would wish, I mean, if I'm lucky, to keep doing this for as long as I'm alive. So yeah.
All right.
Wow, pretty emotional.
That's long-winded answer. But yeah, again, I'm really excited to see what's happening this auction season. Okay,
So let me just intervene on this topic. First, this is the top of the iceberg. Wait to see the full Geneva catalog, wait to see Hong Kong catalog, wait to see New York. This fall will be really mind-blowing.
Yeah.
Second is, of course, we will all like to have unlimited budget and buy whatever we see.
Of course.
Whatever we like, wow, this is cool, I want to have one. So unfortunately, we have to be rational because we don't have, unfortunately, unlimited funds. So I just give you a tip. The Italians always say the right watch for you is the watch that sings to you when you wear it.
Mm-hmm.
So when you look at it on your wrist and gives you some emotions, that is the right watch for your collection. Because then you can see one in a window or in an auction catalog, and you see wow, 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 wow. But then when you try it, for whatever reason, it's like, so
yeah,
that is the one that now, that is the direction I suggest you to follow for your collection. Third and last point, Geneva, Switzerland is open to all the countries, so to all the travelers that they are fully vaccinated.
Yeah.
So also for US. So you have good chances to go to Geneva this fall. That I strongly advise you to do so.
I already bought my ticket. Yeah.
Well done.
We'll see. Yeah, I'm hoping nothing changes. Already bought my tickets and settling the accommodations now. But yeah, I agree. And also, like, just to last point that I want to say before we move on, I think while we would all love an unlimited budget, but it's not being able to purchase something or not being able to purchase everything. That's what makes it even more fun, right? Like, because when you have everything, you kind of have nothing. That's like one thing I tell myself to make me feel better anyways. So, but yeah.
Like when we had this conversation, right, we talked about riding the waves of the hype, because everything is just wave after wave after wave.
Yeah.
And I think that what we were discussing was, instead of like not even thinking which wave you're riding, because it's endless waves and you're getting the same thrill out, when does it end?
It doesn't.
Just actually thinking, hang on, sit back and see all these people riding the wave, and then think, that's the wave, that's the one I want to ride, right? Might not be the biggest one, but that's the one.
Yeah.
Instead of actually just constantly being on the cycle of the wave, right?
Exactly.
That's what we were talking about.
Yeah, exactly. It's like, that's why I think moving forward, it will, like exactly what Thomas said, I'll only be able to, not be able to, but I would like to be able to acquire pieces that have that emotional connection, like be it with you guys or something in my personal life or whatever. So yeah, it's all a part of the quote unquote journey.
Can I just say something really random?
Yeah.
Because as I was going to sleep last night, and then because I lost the bid, for Sotheby's, right? And I was thinking about this, and I was thinking,
what bid?
The 2 on bracelets. And I was thinking, how stupid is it that I'm bidding for this bracelet that I know I need to resize or cut, right? And then I realized a huge part of it was that I just wanted to challenge myself by having this problem with the bracelet. Like, I knew that I have to figure out how to resize this bracelet.
Oh, the 3940.
Yeah, 40. It's actually 45. Yeah.
Oh, 3945. Yeah.
And I just had such a kick from like finding out, how do I resize this bracelet? And
see, sometimes we are so irrational when it comes to purchases. Okay, yeah. Moving forward. I guess the next question I want to ask is, well, again, it relates back to what you said, Tama, like having a watch on your wrist that sings. But for you, like, you started your career in 2006, if I believe. And then, so that's like almost 2 decades, right? What has the role of watches been like for you when you started? Has it changed? In other words, have you been desensitized by it at all because you've just seen so much over the past almost 20 years?
Of course, doing this job, I've been, and I hope I will be able to see amazing timepieces going through our previews, our auctions, our catalogs. So I'm in a very lucky position as a collector. I have to say that since I really got a little bit mature and start to understand a bit more about the watch industry and watch collecting, no, my taste hasn't really changed. I can see in my collection that, of course, it changes, but I can clearly see that I'm still following the same, directions that I had 15 or 20 years ago.
Mm-hmm. So what's like one watch that you put on that makes you sing, or wait, no, that sings to you when you put it on?
All of them, all of them that I have in my collection, they sing to me. Maybe some of them they do opera, some of them they are pop stars or rock stars. They sing differently, but they all sing.
Yeah.
But the thing with Thomas's collection, right, is I only know a few pieces, yeah, but it's really interesting that, Jacqueline, you just mentioned that you're looking for pieces with not just, I just want to keep having them, but that emotional meaningfulness of them, you're really seeking out. And Thomas, if I may say, he's got a Tissot from his grandfather, he has that emotional connection. I think he has a unique piece, DB, right, from the wedding, also super meaningful. It seems that maybe that is the direction that you go to when you get to a certain level, because I think Thomas is, I'm sure you can elaborate more. I don't want to put words in your mouth, Thomas, on the pieces you have, right?
Yeah, but definitely there is also watches for me, but also for many collectors are companion of your life, because I perfectly remember when my son was born, I was wearing a watch that I bought for that event, so that will stay in my mind forever. So those also are good things to look at when you're buying watches.
Did you have the emotional connection with the Lang & Söhne? Or was it just the appreciation?
Yes, because I remember during a Basel World, that I don't remember which year, but it was early 2000s. No, it was not Basel World, it was CHA, sorry. Early 2000, I had the chance to, get a closer look at the watches and talk to someone from the brand. And from the moment I said, wow, great brand, great watches. And it was a long time ago.
Yeah. Yeah. Do you wait? I don't know how I know this, but I've heard, maybe I heard it from Dan or Chester, that you have a 1815 chrono. Is that right?
Yep.
Okay. What made you decide to go with the 1815 versus the datograph?
But first the price, because it's slightly more reasonable. No, but joking apart of that, I like the simplicity of 1815. I like the fact that has the pulsometer scale, the size of it, and then as the datograph when you turn it, because for me it's the movement. I mean, it's like a three-dimensional movement. You can basically dive into the bridges, and the finishing, as I said previously, of Lange for me is unique. So I like flyback chronographs. So that's why I decided 1815. The shape, the classic shape, really classic shape of a chrono.
Yeah. But for me, on the datograph, right, it sings like Mozart. When I look over it, I just think Mozart.
Yeah. Okay, so one of my last few questions is actually, are you willing to share with us any highlights from the upcoming, be it like Hong Kong or Geneva auction? Like what has caught your eye? Because I mean, by the time that this is released, the catalog will probably already be out. So you can give us like a teaser first. Yeah. If you're comfortable.
You mentioned Cartier. We are honored to offer one of the rarest crush that was made specifically for the Hong Kong market in only 40 pieces, and ours is number 6 from the original owner, full set. I mean, that is a quite rare one. Yeah, then yes, of course, we're gonna have our top lot, 2 top lots, both from first one from Patek and the second one from Rolex. They will be quite amazing, especially the Patek Philippe.
Is that all we're getting?
Yeah. I was like, Thomas isn't answering the question.
Okay. Well,
right, unroll this, unrecord, and ask again.
Yeah. I'll finish this and then I'll ask again. Okay. Well, I guess that goes on to the reverso round. Thomas, do you have any questions for us?
Yes, of course. So let's start with Daniel. So I remember we did a joint interview with the New York Times regarding Intersect. And at that moment, you didn't have the full visibility of the final selection. One thing that I can tell you is that we talked about the cross-category activity. So art people bidding in watches and vice versa. Mm-hmm. I can confirm you that happened also this time. And we had serious art people bidding very high on some watches. So first, my question is, was the selection something that you were expecting? Was the final results online or what you were expecting?
Okay, so 2 questions there. I'll answer the first one. I actually thought the selection was quite smart because people that are into art, they still have to, as you know, watch any hobby at this kind of level. It requires a lot of dedication on the time aspect to do the research and everything, right? But you can't go in too high or too niche on some of the products where you scare away the people, because their priority will probably be art. And so you want to see, okay, we want to do a testing phase to see what kind of pieces do art people gravitate to naturally. They might not be the pieces that collectors go for. And they also have to be quite varied on the selection, on the accessibility, on the price. So I think that was achieved. And there weren't many pieces that I thought, oh, that's just repeated. So it wasn't like Rolex after Rolex after Rolex, which you would normally see on not a more common, but a more usual auction, right? So it gave a good exposure to somebody that wouldn't know that much about maybe watches or what's out there and design. So I think there was a lot of aspect on design, which I think is consistent with art. In terms of the results, well, since I know you guys are so good, your team is so good, I expected good results. I almost come to expect Philips to get good results. So I wasn't surprised with the results. And I certainly wasn't surprised by the vagabondage. That when a piece like that comes up, collectors don't really care which auction it is. They're just going to focus on that piece because it is so desirable. And to have a few of those pieces, which gives the attention to the Intersect auction, because it's probably something you want to continue. You need to have that exposure and people talking about it, right? So I think to have like a safe choice of a 5711, then a vagabondage piece, which is going to perform well because the collectors are going to bring that one up. And then other pieces which people wouldn't have really put on their radar, they do well. I think it was generally a well-executed auction for the demographic and target that you were going for. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Great, thank you. Long, long. So we were talking about emotional and irrationality of buying watches. So you were chasing a 3945. Why that reference?
Okay, very specifically, I won a 3940. I'm not even chasing. Okay, I don't want to say I'm not chasing in case I do get it. Um, I won a 3940, but I wanted a Dore dial for a while, right? This is purely emotional because I know in real life, and I've set all these stupid expectations like I'm never going to be able to get the salmon dial. So let me just now look for the Dore dial. But man, the Dore dial is so rare. So I go through this whole list of like different criterias. And then for some strange reason, I think in the past half year, I've started to want to look for like stranger things. So things on bracelets and things that are not ideally what I think people will want to collect when they want the dream Patek collection. Um, so it started from there. And then honestly, I was also really curious because, like I said, I think I'm still very, very new to the auction world in terms of I don't really understand. I don't think I know how to use it still. I know this is how it works, but I'm not sure. Am I supposed to use the auction as a way to inspire me to build my collection? Or do I approach you guys more to say, hey, tell me where I should go next in terms of my collection?
Mm.
And I honestly was just like, let me try Sotheby's. That was the truth. I was like, let me try it out. So I started looking on Sotheby's more and more. And from a customer's point of view, for someone, again, very limited information on watches, very limited in terms of my knowledge, I just went, oh, it seems like Sotheby's and Christie's are less curated. That was what I was thinking. It feels more like a supermarket that has everything, and then I'm just shopping around, and then whatever, like you said, sinks to me, makes me go, wow, that's interesting. I'll start to look into it. So this 3945 already ticked two things. One, it was a 3940 range, and then had the Dore dial. Then it became funny because I was like, this is kind of funny because it's easy to get. Like buying, it's not the hard thing, just bidding, right? It's just money. But then what am I going to do with the bracelet? So then that became a challenge. So then I was going through forums asking a lot of collectors, what do I do? And so on, so on. Found two people that could like resize the bracelet and cut it for me. Then it was like, okay, then it became just fun. Then I realized when I was bidding, it was more like Jacqueline said, kind of like a competition, but not a competition where your heart was just
Mhm.
excited, but you logically you're like, this is dumb. That it started with that. Then I saw an ellipse, which was placed right under, like I think lot 43. So 42 was a 3945. The for the ellipse, it started for a while already. I've been looking for an ellipse since we spoke to John Reardon, and I know that it's another one of those pieces where you could easily just be like, hey, the price is okay, you just buy one. But I want to be very specific. Which edition am I getting? I don't want to just buy a random blue dial and say, hey, I have one. So back to your question in terms of like emotional, I'm still very emotional, but I'm just trying to I think it's at this point emotional in the sense that it's a challenge. It's not that I need to have the greatest collection. I want to challenge myself in terms of buying stuff that isn't just
Superfluous.
yeah, or like
You want
it
to have
isn't.
more discipline.
I want
Yeah,
to
more
have
discerning.
discipline. Yeah, and I want to have a very specific reason why I like a piece, not just because it's the right thing to do, to buy every perpetual calendar, to follow every collector's kind of journey. I
Mhm.
don't care if my collection doesn't make any sense to anyone, honestly. I
Yeah.
just need it to make sense to myself and I like it, then okay. Yeah.
Mhm. Mhm.
Yeah.
Maybe Tama can help you find a 3945 or a 3940.
Yeah. I really like okay.
I didn't even
Yeah.
know that you liked that watch
You
that
know what it
much.
is? When I researched I've always liked it. The first time I saw it, honestly, was on Shoyo, and it was on a red croc strap, and it was tiny. So even on myself, I looked at it and I thought, tiny, right?
The
Um,
3940?
yeah, 3940. Um, and then but I was very sure I wanted a J. Like I was very sure about this. So obviously, I'll read different editions, so on, so on. then I saw the salmon dial. I never saw the salmon dial in real life. I saw the salmon dial online, and I always
That's
think with
the
pictures,
London Saatchi
yeah,
edition.
yeah, and I
Well,
think
they
with pictures,
actually,
it's always different.
actually,
Yeah,
they call it the London Saatchi edition, but there were like a lot more that were produced apparently. So
yeah,
that one
after, yeah.
actually isn't as hard to get as many people might think.
Mhm.
Yeah, but the Dory dial, I know what you mean. Like, I didn't know that it was, I thought it was just like a champagne color dial, but then like under the sun, it's really pretty.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So hopefully,
Yeah.
Thomas, you know the ellipse, right? When we're talking to John Reardon, he said the market hasn't quite made its decision on the pieces that have patinaed and non-patina. So whether you want one that is completely original, you know how Rolex is like, you get a patina and they're like, well, you know, the price is now going to be quite significantly more. Those ones which on the ellipse have patinaed into like a firework kind of dial, do you think that those are going to go higher eventually?
Yes, for sure. Don't ask me what will be the percentage or how fast they will grow. That I don't know, but definitely they go up.
Yeah.
By the way, so I go on this fashion site called Farfetch, and if you go to the men's section, they just have vintage watches, and they also do like resale. A while back, I found these kind of like patinaed ones, and I took a picture. I
You
sent it to
did.
Chester. Yeah, and I told Chester, "Oh my god, I found one!" Da, 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 da. And now they have all disappeared. So I'm like,
Yep.
they must know. They must have some watch department person in there. Like, let's pull it down. Like, don't put it on the site.
No, if you not just Farfetch, but if you go on the Real, like
Yes,
yesterday,
the real, yeah.
yesterday I was looking on the Real, and there was a pretty rare Calatrava on there. It was a 3790, well, not rare-ish,
Yeah.
like 3796R with the pink dial, so pink on pink. The one that Collected Man just sold, I think they sold it for like 18,000 US. It was on the Real for like 8,000. So, I mean, like good deals are there to
don't
be
tell
found.
people.
Oh,
You
by
have to go on the
the
fashion
time,
site.
by the time I
Huh?
say this, it's probably
Yeah.
gone. I mean, I didn't get it, but
No,
by
but
the
I'm just
time
telling you,
it's
there's a secret whole like world if you go into the fashion sites.
okay. We'll edit this part out. Just kidding.
I want to try the ellipse on as well, but I just think the ellipse will look banging on Long Long.
The
It just looks
ellipse
so
buckle
good, yeah.
is so comfortable. The buckle. Yeah.
Right. We have to get back to this interview.
Yeah.
Yeah. Do you have a question for me, or we can?
Yeah, just would like to, sorry if I'm laughing, but I perfectly remember Lung Lung a month ago said, oh, I don't want to go into Patek because then I'm gonna,
Yeah.
go crazy. And after a month, she's talking about Patek.
Yeah.
And Jacqueline, I'm really impressed on how you're talking about watches. Wow, like really, you
I'm a nerd. I'm a geek.
I say, Long Long and I, we say like, we might have read the same stuff as Jacqueline, but we cannot retain it as well as Jacqueline and pull it out of our heads as fast as Jacqueline.
Yeah, it's a problem.
That's the really amazing part I find about Jacqueline. I'm still stunned. As much as she said, you guys brought me into the auction world. Trust me, I think it was the other way around. Like she's talking about all these vintage pieces and shoving them in my face all the time. Can you just chill out?
I posted a comment.
You define yourself a nerd. So Jacqueline, what do you do? What is your first do that you do in the morning, and what is the last thing you do in the evening?
What's the first thing I do in the morning, and what's the last thing I do?
Mm-hmm.
Well, these days I'm really busy with schoolwork, so I've been kind of occupied with that. But at the evening, Long said, I eat by my bedside table and welcome cockroaches climbing up my face. No, these days, what have I been doing on my free time? Well, reading the catalogs, and basically I have a notebook. Okay, yeah, going to the geeky side. I'll keep this short. I have a notebook for my watch thoughts, right? And like to me, sometimes when I'm bored or when I'm tired, I like to write down like my thoughts. Again, going back to what I said, it's like forming a perfect family, but that sounds so psychotic. It's not like that. It's just I would like every piece that I have to have a special meaning and fit in a specific role that plays into my life. So sometimes I can be a little bit compulsive when I see two things that fit into the same role or do the same thing. Then I start thinking, okay, how can I try something new, maybe selling one or trading in one to get something new to try out. So I have a lot of these different scenarios I play inside of my own head. And then I would go like looking for stuff randomly. And that's kind of how I de-stress myself. And I would say over the past year, I mean, most nights, I have no, this is gonna sound so bad. It's not like most nights I think about watches, but it's just like not even nights. It's just when I'm bored or when I'm feeling stressed out or when I want to feel certain sense of happiness.
Yeah.
It's just something I deviate to. So that's it's a little bit compulsive, which is why I'm toning it down a little bit. But I think I've had a pretty good year. I made some decisions at the beginning of the year, which I thought were kind of crazy. I traded a bunch of watches in for one. I must have traded like 6 or 7 for one. And at that time, I was like, this is crazy. Like, what are you doing? But now looking back at it, I think I'm happy with my decision. And so things come and go. It's unexpected, but sometimes I do tend to think a lot because, it's emotional. I really care about it. I wouldn't think about it if I didn't care about it. So, yeah.
I find watches very calming too.
Yeah.
Because it's just like something that is just me and everyone else is shut off from the world. And I just look at the pieces.
It's very personal.
Yeah, it is very personal. I find it it just takes my mind off everything.
Yeah, exactly. Okay, shall we go into the quick fire round?
Yeah.
Okay, Thomas, vintage or modern?
Both.
Manual or automatic?
Manual.
Time only or complication?
Complication.
Favorite complication?
Chronograph.
Okay, leather strap or bracelet?
Bracelet.
Favorite lot that is coming up?
At Philips, all of them.
Okay. One watch that you'd like to see in person that you still haven't. I don't know if there is one, but because you've seen so many.
Buzz Aldrin Speedmaster.
Okay.
I want to see that watch before I die.
Okay, I'm sure you will. What are you wearing right now?
Patek Philippe.
What? Like what?
Yeah.
What?
5027.
Okay, 5027. What advice would you give to someone who is interested in joining the auction industry?
Talk to specialists.
Okay. And last question. Only watches coming up. What is one that gets you excited the most?
I think the Rolex Deepsea, that is a really like an extraordinary and historically important timepiece.
Yeah. Have you guys have seen that watch, right? Like the two-tone Deepsea long? Dan?
I don't know if you guys have it.
I'm asking them. Have you seen it?
No.
You've seen it? No, I've not seen it. No.
The photos?
No.
Yeah, it just every time I see that, because I think they did a Hodinky episode where one of the collectors had a Deepsea in his collection, and then when he put it on his wrist, it was just like a building on the wrist. So that would be interesting to see. Okay, well, that's the end of our part 2 interview with Thomas Perazzi. Thank you so much for making time for us. And we'll look forward to the upcoming 2 auctions from Philips.
Is Thomas going to Geneva?
Thank you.
Huh?
Are you going to be in Geneva, Thomas?
Unfortunately, no, because still the quarantines in Hong Kong are extremely severe, and that if I fly to Geneva, will jeopardize the Hong Kong auction. So I will follow from here.
Mhm.
Thank you all again. It was a pleasure,
Thank you.
and
Thank you.
stay tuned for the upcoming auctions.
Yeah,
Yeah,
thank you
stay
so
safe as
much.
well.
Yeah, and thank you guys for listening. Have a great day. Bye-bye.
Thank you for tuning in to the Waiting List podcast. Hit the subscribe button and the next episode will come straight to your phone as soon as it's ready. Whilst I'm here, please remember to leave a nice review and follow us on Instagram at the Waiting List Podcast.